Don't show up begging for money. You're pathetic. That was the exact message my father dropped into the family group chat, wedged neatly between discussions about centerpieces and cake flavors. No emojis, no cushioning words, just the blunt truth they'd been polishing in private for years, now sitting there in plain black text. My cousins reacted instantly with laughing emojis. My sister followed it up with, "Finally, Dad said it." I stared at my phone as the barista called my name for the second time. The rest of the cafe dissolved around me. Conversations blurred, cups clinked somewhere far away. All I could hear were their voices, clapping, mocking, erasing me. They thought this was the moment I'd crumble. They had no idea that in that quiet space, something else was happening. I wasn't breaking, I was deciding, and I was already mapping out the single move that would crack their perfect image straight down the middle. I should probably explain who I am, because in my family, I was never really anyone. My name is Riley Hart. I'm 38 years old and I own a small renovation business just outside Indianapolis. Nothing flashy, no glossy billboards or reality shows. I take outdated kitchens and tired bathrooms and turn them into spaces people actually want to live in. I started with a beat-up F-150, a secondhand tool set, and more determination than sense. After years of scraped knuckles and long days, I make around $85,000 a year. To me, that's pride. To my family, it's a joke they tell behind wine glasses. I live with my husband, Eric, and our 2 kids. Jake is 9 and lives for Little League. Ellie is 5 and already choreographing dances in our living room like she's got a stage waiting for her somewhere. Eric teaches at an elementary school. He earns less than any of my sister's husbands, but he's the kind of man who stays late helping kids finish art projects, who comes home with paint on his tie and patience still left in his voice. To me, he's solid gold. To my parents, he's hired help who never quite learned his place. Our house isn't impressive. 3 bedrooms, a garage that doubles as my workshop, a lawn that always needs cutting. But it's ours. I know every nail in the walls, every cabinet hinge I installed with my own hands. Walking through that door usually steadies me, until my phone lights up with their names. Because here's the thing about the Harts. From the outside, we looked like a country club postcard. My father, Thomas, built his wealth flipping commercial properties back in the 90s. He loves telling the story, especially the part where he claims he started from nothing, conveniently leaving out the land his own father handed him. My mother, Marion, turned life into a performance. Perfect table settings, seasonal decor swaps, manicured hedges meant to impress her friends. Then there were my sisters. Lisa, the golden child, a corporate attorney married to a plastic surgeon. Jenna, the baby, working pharmaceutical sales, driving a company BMW, living in a condo my parents paid for. And me, the one who worked with her hands, the one who never fit their image. At dinners, Dad would introduce Lisa and Jenna with their titles, then gesture toward me and mutter, "That's Riley, she's in construction," like it was a phase I'd eventually grow out of. One Christmas, Dad handed my sisters thick envelopes stuffed with checks. Then he turned to me and slid over a $100 Home Depot gift card like it was a punchline. I smiled and thanked him. I swallowed every slight, every sideways look, every laugh muffled behind a wine glass, because I told myself at least I still had a seat at the table. At least I belonged somewhere. That illusion died with one text. When I looked down at my phone in that cafe, the group chat titled Mom's Birthday was lit up like fireworks. They'd been debating flower arrangements one second, and then my father dropped it. "Don't show up begging for money, you're pathetic." My coffee went cold in my hand. The barista called my name again, but I barely heard it. I walked out of the cafe with my phone weighing more than it should have. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. And for the first time, I understood something clearly. I wasn't just excluded from a party, I had been cut loose from the family. The messages didn't stop. Laughing emojis multiplied, clapping hands. My cousin Brant, who once asked me at Thanksgiving if I needed a small loan to cover dessert, sent the first wave. Then Lisa chimed in. Finally, Dad said it. Somebody had to. Each buzz of my phone felt like another shove toward a door I'd already been clinging to by my fingertips. Then the meme appeared. An uncle who'd never worked a physical day in his life had photoshopped my face onto a clown holding a hammer, captioned it, "When you think manual labor makes you important." My stomach twisted, but I didn't type a single word back. I thought about all the moments that led here. Dad praising my sister's hard work with checks worth thousands, then tossing me that gift card like a bone. Mom introducing Eric with that tone. Lisa scheduling her wedding during Jenna's graduation weekend just to make sure the spotlight stayed on her. It was never about family. It was about appearances, about who looked best under the chandelier. That text was just the mask finally slipping. That night, after Jake and Ellie were asleep, I told Eric everything, not just the message, but the years of quiet digs that came before it. He sat beside me at the kitchen table, his hand warm over mine. He didn't say, "I told you so," he just listened. When I finished, he asked one question. "What do you want to do?" I looked at him, at the man who graded papers until midnight, who patched our roof in the rain because we couldn't afford a crew, and I knew. I didn't want revenge for just me. I wanted my kids to see what dignity looks like. I wanted to show every smug face in that group chat that walking away with your head high is stronger than begging to stay. So I pulled out my phone and opened the reservation confirmation email, the private room at the Italian restaurant my mother bragged about but had never stepped foot in. I pressed cancel. $2,500 gone in one tap. The jazz trio, the custom menu, the surprise I'd planned erased. They'd never know I had lined up a celebration worthy of the woman they claimed to honor. Then, quietly, I started something else. The next morning, I called Mason, an old friend who now ran a digital marketing agency. He owed me a favor. I'd built his basement office years ago at cost when he was just starting out. I told him I wanted a real website, not just a phone number slapped on a page, but a portfolio that showed what I could do. Kitchens rebuilt from wreckage, bathrooms transformed, testimonials, proof. By the end of that call, something had shifted. Later that week, I reached out to Ryan, my cousin, who'd walked away from the family circus years ago. He lived in Asheville now, ran rentals, and once offered me a place if I ever needed out. For the first time, I considered it. I didn't rage. I didn't send paragraphs into the chat. I canceled the deposit. I made 2 phone calls, and I went back to work, drilling into old oak cabinetry, dust in my hair, a faint smirk pulling at my mouth. They thought my silence meant I was broken. They didn't realize it was the sound of the ground shifting under their feet. Change didn't arrive like a lightning bolt. It came steady, deliberate. Mason delivered fast. Within 2 weeks, I had a site that told a story. Before and after photos that looked like magazine spreads. Testimonials from clients whose names my parents would whisper if they knew them. A booking system so clean, inquiries started coming in before the launch was even official. He targeted the wealthier neighborhoods. For the first time in years, people called me because I was the best, not because I was cheap. Jobs tripled. I walked into million-dollar homes, clients shaking my hand like I belonged there. I documented everything. Professional photos, drone shots. Each click felt like another brick laid between me and the family who laughed me out. They noticed. I knew when Lisa messaged me. "Where did you get the money to attend the Children's Hospital Gala? Those tickets are $500. No congratulations, just suspicion. I left her on red. Then Mom texted. "I see your business is doing well. Maybe we should talk. Dad has connections." Translation, now that their friends were noticing, they wanted credit. I didn't respond. Dad even called my new business line once. My assistant answered. He hung up immediately. Just knowing he'd heard another voice between him and me was worth more than any inheritance. But the real surprise came from Jenna. She texted asking to meet for coffee. Just us, no group, no audience. I almost said no, but something in me wanted to hear her.
We sat across from each other at a little cafe on the south side. She looked tired, messy bun, no makeup, nothing like the polished younger sister who always had the right bag and the right shoes. She admitted it straight. "You were right, Riley. About everything." Then she told me how the birthday dinner went down after I canceled the reservation. Dad scrambled and ended up booking a steakhouse. Mom kept asking about the Italian place, convinced something better had been planned, but Dad brushed her off. The whole night was awkward, flat. People noticed I wasn't there. For the first time, I saw shame in Jenna's eyes. She confessed she'd stayed silent too long, gone along with the crowd. "They only loved you when you were useful," she said, and she wasn't wrong. By then, I had already spoken to Ryan. He told me a tenant was leaving one of his Asheville houses in a few months. 4 bedrooms, a big workshop out back, less mortgage than I was paying now. It sounded like air, like space to breathe. I didn't give my family explanations. I gave them breadcrumbs, a photo of moving boxes, a caption, "New chapter loading." That was it. While they whispered, speculated, and fumed in their group chat, I stayed quiet. But every day my silence got louder. Moving day didn't feel like an ending. It felt like oxygen. The house was stripped bare, sunlight falling across the floorboards where our couch used to sit. Jake's baseball glove was stuffed into a box labeled in messy marker. Ellie had drawn purple flowers across her moving box, grinning like this was an adventure instead of a goodbye. Eric carried the last load out, sweat streaking his shirt, but smiling. I took one last photo of the empty living room and posted it with a caption, "Sometimes leaving toxic people behind is the only way to grow." No location tag, no explanation, just the truth. We pulled out of the driveway at 8 a.m., Eric leading with the SUV and kids, me following in the rental truck. Windows down, cool air rushing in, the sound of tires on pavement louder than any goodbye my family would ever give me. 8 hours later, we were in Asheville. Ryan met us with keys and pizzas. The house was everything he promised. Wide porch, backyard with a maple tree, begging for a tire swing. A workshop 3 times the size of my Indiana garage. I walked through each room, bare walls echoing with the kids' footsteps, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt free. The months that followed were a blur of building, literally and figuratively. I incorporated my business in North Carolina. Mason launched ad campaigns that put my projects in front of exactly the kind of clients I wanted. Tech CEOs buying mountain retreats, old money families restoring century-old estates. One video, a documentary-style reel of me overseeing a $1 million kitchen, went semi-viral. Suddenly, I wasn't just in construction. I was the name people called when they wanted craftsmanship no one else could pull off. Revenue skyrocketed. I went from 85 grand a year to on track for $250,000, then past it. Within a year, my new division with David Miller, home automation for luxury properties, was bringing in 7-figure contracts. I hired a team, built a showroom downtown with demo stations, even got written up in a design magazine. And my family? They were watching. I knew because the silence turned into static. Messages started pouring in, first from Lisa pretending to be curious about how I managed tickets for the gala, then from Mom, "Your father has connections that could help you expand." Then from Dad, "Enough is enough. People are asking about you. It's embarrassing." Not one apology, not one word of ownership, just concern for their image. I ignored it all, but silence wasn't forever. Almost exactly a year after I left, the news broke. Thomas Hart Real Estate collapsed. Headlines about investigations, misrepresented properties, investors screaming fraud, assets sold, vacation homes gone, cars repossessed. My father, the man who once smirked while handing me a gift card like it was charity, was exposed as a fraud himself. I heard about it the same way everyone else did, through texts lighting up my phone. Old friends, distant cousins, even Lisa's husband, the plastic surgeon who once looked at me like hired help, messaged me, "Your dad's under SEC investigation. It's bad." For once, I didn't feel anger. I didn't even feel glee. I felt inevitable. 2 weeks later, my parents landed in Asheville. Not in a mansion, not in a vacation rental, in a dingy condo on the outskirts of town. Their money was gone, their country club membership gone. My mother, who once sneered at my work jeans, was applying for part-time retail jobs at the mall. My father, still prideful but stooped now, was living off Social Security. And then came the voicemail. His voice cracked thin, older than I remembered. "Riley, we're in Asheville now. Things are hard. Your mother, she's not well. Maybe you could find it in your heart to help. A job for her at your office or something part-time for me, consulting maybe. We need you." The man who once told me I was pathetic for working with my hands was now asking for a construction job. I saved the voicemail. I didn't call back. Then Mom texted, "Please, Riley, we've lost everything. Lisa and Jenna can't help. You're our only hope." I showed it to Eric. He read it twice, then looked at me. "What are you going to do?" I smiled. "Nothing." But I did one thing. Through Ryan, I arranged a modest 2-bedroom rental on Maple Street. Safe neighborhood, plain. I paid the first month's rent, sent Mom a single text, "The landlord is expecting your call." Then I blocked her number. That was it. Weeks later, Ryan told me they took the house. I never visited, I never called, and yet they were everywhere. I'd see my father sitting on a bench near the baseball field where Jake practiced. He never approached, just stared at his hands, the same hands that typed, "You're pathetic." My mother, thinner now, scanning coupons at the grocery store, glancing at Ellie across the produce aisle, but never saying a word. They had become shadows, and that, I realized, was the revenge I never knew I wanted. Not their suffering, not their begging, their irrelevance. They once told me I embarrassed the family. Now I lived a life they could only watch from the outside, silent, diminished. And every time I caught their eyes across a room or a street, I didn't feel anger, I didn't feel pity, I just felt free. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It's quiet. In Asheville, my life settled into something I'd never had before: peace. My morning started with coffee on the porch, sunlight filtering through the maple tree while Eric prepped for school. Jake's glove hung on the rail, still dusty from practice. Ellie twirled in the yard, her giggles echoing through the open windows. These were the sounds of a life that mattered. My business kept growing. The showroom downtown became a hub for clients with budgets that once seemed untouchable. We cleared more than $1 million in revenue, with projections climbing higher. I had a staff of 15 now, craftsmen and women who believed in the work as much as I did. For the first time, I didn't just own a business, I owned my future. Eric thrived at his new school, finally respected for the teacher he had always been. Jake made the travel baseball team. Ellie earned a spot in a competitive dance program. Every milestone reminded me of the weight I'd shed when I walked away from people who measured love in dollars. My parents were still in town, still trying to spin stories about me. Sometimes I'd hear from old friends, Mom saying I had a breakdown, Dad muttering that I got lucky, but none of it touched me anymore, because the truth was visible in every photo I posted, every project completed, every laugh at our dinner table. They had chosen pride and appearances over family, and in the end, all they had left was pride, brittle and empty. I had everything else. Sometimes I still see them, my father on a park bench, my mother pushing a cart down the grocery aisle. They don't speak, they don't look me in the eye, and I don't need them to, because the best revenge was never watching them suffer, it was watching them fade into the background while I built a life that finally felt like mine. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stands with you when the world turns its back. I chose my family, the one I built with my own 2 hands. If you've ever had to walk away from people who never valued you, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments and hit subscribe.